So what we have coming up now is educational resource for those of you who've hung out in incubators and startup accelerators and things like that. A lot of times one of the services that they provide is how do you do something? How do you do SEO? How do you do your books? How do you handle legal? All right. And so we had an opportunity to do that today, so I'd like you to please welcome Tim from Eternal Works to talk about SEO 101.
I don't wear those in meetings anyway. Good morning. So thank you for having me. Let me do a test real quick. Good. Okay. Great. So I'm going to do this kind of quickly, just because I don't know who we have in the room and what their experience and knowledge base is. I'm a very interactive person. I like to engage. I like feedback. So I'm looking forward to getting to the questions part more than hanging around the presentation. So SEO 101. Which way was that? Okay. So quick miss. SEO is not dead or being replaced by social media. The first thing I would notate, social media is a part of SEO. It's all content, right? And you're going to hear me say that a lot. Content. It's very key. Sites generate traffic on their own. There's no way you're going to stand up a site, turn it on, and it's going to start producing traffic. It's just like if we open a brick and mortar anywhere in any one of these shopping centers. If you don't tell anybody it's there, until they mistakenly drive past it, they're never going to see it. Website is the same way. Google is the only search engine that matters. It's the one that matters the most, but it's not the only one that matters. We've seen great results from Bing, Yahoo, and a few others. So, optimization, getting things optimized for its optimal performance. The reason I bring that term up in itself is there's actually several forms of optimization. There's optimization on a page that means converting leads. Then there's optimizing for the search engines. Two completely different things, both equally important in my eyes. We're talking about search engine optimization today. So there's on-page and off-page. Both are ongoing. You're not going to set it up once and it's done. If you're doing that, give you about 6 months before you start dropping off again. You should be updating your content probably a little more frequently than even 6 months, okay? And it's not completely overhauling the content as much as just making tweaks. Looking at your keywords, rephrasing a few things of that nature. Off page is when you start getting into blogs, LinkedIn, Facebook, which is now becoming a search tool to some extent. Those types of things. Oops. Let me get this clicker down in a few. So content is still king. I don't mean content marketing, but content is still king. That is probably, if we're going to go with something that's going to be the secret sauce, the winning thing, the secret trick, the magic thing that everybody's doing that makes this thing so special, it is content. Essentially, the search engines are searching through content. It's not that difficult. Most people make it a little more difficult than it really is, but as you're doing your content, it's just gearing it towards specific keywords, okay? So, still content. A few quick things on just breaking some things down, and I point this out because in tech talk there's header and then there's header. So there's some pretty important headers in SEO that matter versus headers in a page. So this is basic page structure. You have a header, a body, and a footer. And there's two things I'm going to talk about. There's the header up here that refers to what you see visually. There's header 1 through 6, which you see in the code. Those 1 through 6s are very important. The 1 is the most important, the 6 is the least important. But those are things that Google's looking at to say what this page is about. So your header 1 should essentially be what that page is about, yes?
Header 1 being big text.
Yes. Unless you style it differently.
Right.
Most of the time, the body is where your content's going to go, and this is what Google's going to kind of reference the most. Just a note about the physical header that you see. Things you put in the physical header that you see and things you put in the footer get graded lower. So you're not going to get the same grade as you would for information here, as, you know, that's going to kind of drop. It's a term called banner blindness. So one principle to stay on top is content. Write good content, essentially. Write and produce content. That's why content marketing is so successful, why it's such a huge buzzword, why people are doing it so much, why inbound marketing is so successful. It's about producing content. just a little kind of quick insight on that, I guess. The more content you produce, the more content on your site that is searchable. Kind of get where I'm going with that a little bit? Cool. All right, great. So that's me. Won't spend a lot of time there. If you want to email me, ask me any questions or anything later on that you think of, that's great. And, oh, we deleted the questions.
Yeah, questions.
So questions, let's get into questions. There you go. Something a little more advanced. Anybody want to know, want to learn, want to talk about, want to discuss? You want to? Yes, sir.
So when I create like a website, it asks me for those keywords, just like when you make like a YouTube video and asks you for the tags. How big of a role does that play as opposed to content?
So when you're doing, the keywords are essentially what makes the search work, right? So there is, you type in Google, essentially Google says, I don't know, but these guys might, right? And so it says these guys might based on the quality of the content on your page and based on who else is linking to you based on those keywords. Okay, so those keywords matter quite a bit.
And does that matter in ascending order as well? Or is it, if it's
By the way, I forgot to do this in the beginning. This is Duncan Dotson. He is our lead analyst and online marketing guru on our team. So he's going to answer stuff that I don't go as deep into.
Yeah, so I think what you're asking is, when you put in keywords, title tags matter, right? So your title tags matter, and Google will look to line up what you say that you're writing about, and then look in the body and see what you're actually writing about. If those two things match, then you pass the test, and they move you on to other metrics to figure out what they're gonna show you in the search engine results for. So like your search page is your search engine results. Where you show up, they first look at what you think you're about, which is your title tag.
No, title tag, like I use Weebly, I don't know if you're familiar.
Okay.
And it has like that title, is that what you're talking about when you say title
Sure,
tag?
when you title the page, the name of the page, that's your title tag. That's the most important thing on your end for
When you make the
SEO,
title
other
tag.
than the content, yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's fine. So the title tag on this one is 1millioncubs.com. Right, so that's what we're referencing when we say title tag.
You can you bring up the code?
Yeah.
No.
That's horrible.
That
No,
is,
no, no.
Hey, wait a minute. National did that. We don't have any
No,
say.
you need to be using Chrome. That'll make it easier to see.
This is true.
The developer console makes it a little easier. If you,
That'll work too.
Was it Control Shift I, and then it'll like, in the hamburger tag. Anyway. it's
So
in there.
that's the title tag. It's in the header, the head of the code.
Yeah.
Let me
So-
give you one that's probably a little bit
yes. Thank you.
better. Our site.
Much
Okay.
better.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
All right, so you see the head tag,
Yep.
and then you see the next thing says title, comparity, and insurance simplified.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
so
what it's
that's when you go in Weebly, your title tag, that's what Google looks at to see what you think you're about.
for. Okay, so to verify that, I can right-click View Page Source and
To see that
Sure.
it has it, yeah.
I mean, it might be a little bit hidden. It might be what you saw the first
I
time.
can still search,
Yeah, you can search through it. Yeah.
But you can certainly check it in the tab across the top bar.
Okay.
So if it's displaying there the way you need it to display, then.
Now, one of the things I was told is that, the whole, like, where it says meta, name, keywords, content equals insurance, you need to put one or two keywords in there. If you go with the keyword explosion, then do you get docked for that?
Yeah, really, Google doesn't do the meta keywords a lot. Really, what they pay the most attention to, it really helps for articles, right? If you're writing articles, that keyword tag helps them a lot. They're more likely to look at your title tag and then decide, for instance, you're gonna look at that and they're gonna say simple insurance would be a good return of what you think you're about, right? Because insurance, and they take simplified and they take all the different words that are associated with simplified. So simple, simply, all those things. So if I put in simple insurance, that they're gonna consider that you think that's what you're about. Then, once they decide what you think you're about, then they start to ask, all right, what does his content say he's about?
Yeah, that's like 2 lines down, that content.
No, content
No,
being what he actually
what's
wrote,
on-
what's on the page.
So,
Gotcha.
I have a question.
this
Yeah.
one is a.
Can you give any advice or tips on how to do keyword research? Because I've always found like, okay, I know I'm in this industry, but then I'll fit from there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the keyword research is as simple or as hard as you want it to be, right? I use 4 tools. It's easy as using one. You can use Google's keyword search in AdWords. You sign up for an AdWords account, you don't actually have to buy anything or run any ads, but you use their keyword tool to figure out what your keywords might be associated with your industry. So they'll spit back out a list of keywords for you. The other thing that you can do is on social media, figure out how people talk about your product or service. So whenever you're trying to make a keyword, you want to know what other people say to bring you up. For instance, the reason why I asked him why CRM is because exactly what he said. The younger people aren't going to use CRM to look up his solution. What they're going to focus on is organization. I want an organizational tool that helps me. So I need to put myself in the position of my client or customer and say, what are they going to look up to try to find my solution? Google is the cheapest because it's free and the simplest to use, but then once you get past that, you're talking about researching through surveys, you're talking about researching through, like I said, polling your social media and trying to figure out how they talk about your product or service.
Got some hands going.
Pulling back to a business perspective, 2 things. First of all, I would add a couple things. Content. I would say current, relevant content. I know that Google measures how long you stay on a page, and if you look at the page and click off, they're taking that as the content was not worthy of the search. So current and relevant, I think, is important. The other thing, but from a business perspective, it seems like when they created digital photography one day, the next day everybody was a professional photographer. And when they launched WordPress, everybody went to being an expert website designer and SEO guy. And somebody would charge $100 a month for SEO, and somebody else, like Customer Magnetism, would charge $20,000 a month. So as a business owner, and you're looking for search engine optimization, you're looking to meet a budget, first of all, how would you coach people on how to find a qualified SEO person and to pay a fair price?
The first thing I'll address is the relevant content. There's some truth to that. But you also do want to have evergreen content. And that's the content that you're going to update every 3 to 6 months. Because it's not going to change. The content, the subject matter is not going to change. It's expert advice. If it's expert advice now until eternity ends. You know,
Right.
But at the same time, you need to go in and tweak it to make sure it is fresh. And that's why you're tweaking it every 3 to 6 months to make sure Google sees that it's changing.
I did some searches for sales training not too long ago, so I didn't have to write it myself. And but anyway, the stuff that came up most often was
absolutely.
current blogs. It seems like if somebody blogged about the same thing, they were but they were older. They were down the list farther versus the people who were more recent on the blogs, even though the content was very similar.
Fresh links. So what's happening is Google they weight what links come in. So the way Google really tells how high up the search engine you are is how many people point to you. So if I ask someone in here today, is there a doctor in the house? And everybody pointed to one person, we could trust that that's a good doctor that I could go to, right? Google does the same thing. If people refer to you, they say, okay, this is a good person to go to. The fresher the link to your site, the more weighted it is from Google. And that's why newer blogs go to the top. That's not always true. If there's Wikipedia has old documents that people haven't updated in forever, but because they have so many linking in, you're never going to unseat them, right? So even though they weight the link more for a fresh link, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get knocked off if you have a whole bunch of links coming into your site.
So how would you coach somebody?
Second half of the discussion.
How would you coach somebody to find a qualified, fair-priced, proactive? Because I think one of the key to me in SEO is proactiveness.
I think
Creativity and
I
proactiveness.
think just like any other, when you're buying anything else, come in informed. Know exactly what they're going to try to, because everybody has their different witch's brew, right? So they're going to decide, are we doing link building? Are we doing forum link building, which is a big no-no now, by the way. It depends on how up to date are they on their industry. Do they know exactly what's going on now? Because changes happen with Google. We're just as dependent on Google as he is, right? Because when Google makes a change, for instance, they had something where if you were a blog writer, you could put in your blog picture next to your name, and everyone was doing that, and then they shut it down, right? And everyone plummeted because of it. Or they changed the fact that if you guest blogged on someone else's site, that used to help you. Now it hurts you, right? So you have to keep up. So ask questions about whether they use automated services. If they use automated services, how often do they manually check it, right? Because a lot of people, what they do is they put you into a system, and then the system updates everything, and then they leave it alone. They don't ever check it again, and it just goes on in the background, and you're paying a monthly service for a machine to do updates that they never look at. If it breaks, they never know. I would say also try to get them to have some projections of what they've done in the past for clients, and have they had success in what they're doing, or are they new? Because that's really a lot of people with WordPress, what they're doing is they're putting you into all-in-one SEO. So if you have a WordPress site and you want to do it on the cheap, all-in-one SEO will take care of a lot of the basic things for you. But you know, once you do that, that's it. That's the extent of what's going to happen. But a lot of SEO people will use that for you, and which you could have got for free, and then they leave it alone. They don't touch it.
And the only other thing I would add to that list is people guaranteeing you a #1 spot. It's possible, but the question is how many people are searching for that #1 position that they now delivered on that equals no value in dollar to you.
So you're saying be wary if someone comes and sells you a #1 spot?
We walked into a situation where we had a client that was excited because they were ranked #1 for a chiropractor in Sandbridge. How many people searched that a month? One. Got it. But they're #1 for it. Awesome. Helps them not at all.
I'm always curious as to how people either move up or down the list. Is the top slot, is it on the number of hits on that, or is it the frequency of something being updated?
We could talk all day. We could talk all day about this. There are
about
some
5 minutes left.
Right. There are some basic indicators, right? Who links into you being the biggest. How many people from other sites link to you without you linking back to them, right? That's the biggest indicator. Now, there are a bunch of other pieces that matter. For instance, what he said before was something called bounce rate. When someone shows up to your site and leaves automatically, that's called a bounce. And Google will look at that and say, okay, people are coming onto your site and they're leaving, which means I'm going to downgrade you because what the information they're finding isn't satisfying. Google ultimately wants to satisfy the searcher. They want them to go to one link and find what they need. That's Google's plan. They want to delight their customer, and their customer is the searcher, not you.
So is the time on that, is that also factored in?
Yes, absolutely. So if they land on your page and they only stay on one page for 10 minutes, that's great. That's an amazing thing, because the average is something like 30 seconds. So most people will show up on your page and it's 30 seconds and then they leave because they're not finding what they need. You also want them to interact more with your page. So if you have them stopping at one page and all your information is on one page, Google frowns upon that.
I wasn't given the time, I wanted to ask a question.
Right.
Go ahead, Steve.
All right, blogs. It's, that's, everybody's trying to say you got a blog.
Right.
How important, I know the idea about content. If you're blogging, it gets tied and you get some content. But really, come on, does he have time to blog on everything,
Google doesn't care, right? Google doesn't care about you. They don't care that it's a time suck for you. What they care most about is when I go searching for information, am I gonna be satisfied with what I look up? And so what blogging does is it gives you the greatest net length, right? So if I'm casting a net and it's this big, I'm not gonna catch any fish. If I cast the net that's the size of this room, I'm gonna catch a lot more fish, right? So each individual page, you can think of that as like one tiny connection in that net, and you're gonna get a lot more people with a lot more diverse keywords, right? And so you're slowly building up the places that people can land on your page until you get a wide net, and then that produces traffic. You don't have to blog. If you are a subject matter expert and what you say once absolutely makes the industry, yeah, you can write one article, put that up, everyone will come to you because you're the subject matter expert. Most of us aren't. And so what we're trying to do is build little bits and pieces over time that people are gonna come to our page on particular things. 32 ways to get more business or whatever, right? That you're hoping that attracts more links to your site.
We have the blog at Comparities. I don't know if you noticed on the code for that website, there is not a lot of text and content on that page. But like our president is an expert in insurance, he's an expert in floods, and so we blog in order to provide all of that content. And you're right, it's hard to keep up with, especially with like 3-4 people doing a startup and that not being our primary job. My question, well, go ahead. I have 2 questions I'll save to the end.
I just have a question on that. For blogs, let's say you're SME, like I'm a consultant. The reason why I am not blogging yet, and I have blog posts, I've got them in the can, but I'm giving away expertise that I've worked hard to accumulate and season. So I really feel like, what do I pick to put out there? What do you recommend as an alternative to blogging your golden knowledge, but that still promotes SEO?
That is a hard question. I would push back a little on the first premise, right?
Okay.
That you're giving away your hard-earned knowledge. What you're building is trust. Let's throw out Google for a second, right? And let's just deal with client to service provider. You're showing me that you have a knowledge base that I can choose to go to. And so when you provide me with information that is useful to me, I'm more likely to come back to you for more information. And eventually that leads to trust and we can now have a business relationship. That's all inbound, right? Inbound marketing, HubSpot is what he talked about earlier. Inbound marketing is based on the premise that if you give it away for free, not everything, you don't give everything away for free, but if you give some things away for free, you build trust, and that person is more likely to come back to you over and over again.
Okay, so we're out of time. We do have one important question for you, which is you've helped us, right? So what can we do to help you guys?
For me personally, I would just say let's grab coffee, let's chat. I just love connecting with people. For me, that's where everything starts. It's not about you doing business with us so much as it is the people you may know may need our help.
Yeah, my follow-up to that is because you guys have dropped a lot of knowledge in here. Like, what's your background? How did you get into all this?
So we've been best friends for about 15 or 20 years now. So we've always worked on every project together. My background is in art, graphic design. illustration, all that jazz, which led me into graphic design, held a job in graphic design for a few years, started the company right out of high school while working a job. And eventually, one of the clients we were working with dumped her web development company on me, and so thus began web development.
How
Yeah.
about you, Duncan?
Yeah, same basic deal. Like I started out as a UI guy, right? So like I did user testing, but we really weren't finding a lot of traction in Hampton Roads for user testing, and so I dove headlong. And I don't like to say that I can do something and not have the knowledge base to back it up. So I spent a year just in the books, the trying to try stuff out on my own, and then from there.
Before we even said
That we do it.
Yeah, are the certifications important, like Google Ad, like I know some people go for like Google AdWords.
I have them. I have one from HubSpot for inbound, and I have one for Google. They are important in the same way that any certification is important. It just lets my client know I know what I say I know, right? Instead of me just BSing you and say, yeah, I've done all this stuff, and
Those customer conversion stories are really key. Like they could say, like, we worked for this customer and we did this. All right, well, thank you very much, Duncan.